I turned 30 years old on a Saturday in June, and my family didn't acknowledge it once. Not a card. Not a text. Not even a half-hearted happy birthday mumbled over breakfast. Instead, they were at the airport at 6 in the morning, waving goodbye to my 27-year-old sister Elena as she boarded a flight to Paris, a trip they'd paid for in full because, according to my mother, she needed something to feel proud of herself again. I stood in the driveway that morning, watching their car pull away, and I realized with a clarity that made my chest ache, I had never been the child they celebrated. I had always been the one expected to understand. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, stay until the end. Because what happened after I finally walked away wasn't dramatic, it was inevitable. Before I continue, if you've experienced family favoritism or felt overlooked in your own life, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. Your support helps me share these stories, and I read every single comment. I want to hear your experiences too. You're not alone in this. Now, let me tell you how this all started. My name is Claire, and I'm the older daughter in a family that never quite knew what to do with me. My parents, my dad Andrew, 64, and my mom Marcia, 56, had always been good people on paper. They worked hard, paid their bills, showed up to church on Sundays. But beneath that respectable surface was a pattern I didn't have words for until I was much older. Everything revolved around my younger sister, Elena. She was the one with potential. The one who needed support. The one whose feelings mattered most in every single decision our family made. I don't think they meant to raise us so differently. At least, I didn't think so for a long time. But looking back, the signs were always there. When I got into a good state university with a partial scholarship, my parents congratulated me and then immediately started talking about how we need to budget carefully because Elena would be starting high school soon and she'd need a car, need new clothes, need opportunities to shine. When I graduated with honors and got my first real job in marketing, they took me to dinner at a chain restaurant and spent most of the meal asking if I thought Elena should pursue theater or debate in college. When Elena dropped out of college after 2 semesters because she didn't connect with the environment, they refinanced the house to send her to Europe for 6 months to find herself. I paid my own rent from the day I turned 22. I bought my own car. I paid off my own student loans by the time I was 28. And I never asked them for a dime, because I learned early that asking meant being compared to Elena, and Elena always needed more. For my 30th birthday, I didn't want anything extravagant. I just wanted dinner with my family. I asked my mom about it in April, 2 months in advance. I suggested a Saturday evening, nothing fancy, maybe that Italian place we used to go to when I was younger. She said it sounded lovely and that she'd put it on the calendar. I even offered to make the reservation myself. She told me not to worry, that she'd handle it. In late May, Elena had a bad week at her job. She was working part-time at a boutique, a position my dad had helped her get through a friend. She called my mom crying one night, saying she felt unappreciated and that her coworkers didn't understand her. By the next family dinner, my parents had a plan. They were going to send Elena to Paris for 10 days as a reset and a confidence boost. The trip would include a boutique hotel in the Marais, spending money, and a voucher for a cooking class she'd mentioned wanting to try. I was sitting at the table when they announced this. My mom's eyes were bright with excitement. My dad had his credit card already out, booking the flight on his laptop. Elena was crying, happy tears this time, and hugging them both. I remember my mom saying, "Every young woman deserves to feel special. You're going to come back a whole new person, sweetheart." I didn't say anything right away. I was doing the math in my head. The trip had to cost at least $4,000 or $5,000. I thought about my birthday dinner. It felt small and silly to bring up in that moment, so I waited until later, when I could talk to my mom alone. I found her in the kitchen that night, washing dishes. I kept my tone light. "Hey, Mom, the dinner for my birthday next month, are we still good for that?" She looked up at me, and I saw something flicker across her face. Guilt, maybe. Or just distraction. Oh, sweetie, I meant to talk to you about that. With Elena's trip, we're going to be a little stretched thin. Could we maybe do something simple at the house instead? I'll make your favorite pasta. I felt my stomach drop, but I nodded. Sure. That's fine. You understand, right? This trip is really important for Elena right now. She's been going through a lot. I wanted to ask what I'd been going through. I wanted to say that turning 30 felt significant to me, that I'd been looking forward to this, that just once I wanted to be the person they prioritized. But I didn't. I said, yeah, I understand. The week before my birthday, Elena's trip got moved up. She'd gotten into an argument with her manager and quit her job on the spot, and my parents decided she needed to leave as soon as possible to avoid falling into a depression. The new flight was scheduled for the morning of my birthday, Saturday, June 14th. My mom called me on Thursday. Claire, honey, I know this is terrible timing, but we're going to have to postpone your birthday dinner. We need to take Elena to the airport early Saturday morning, and by the time we're back, we'll be exhausted. Can we celebrate next weekend? I stood in my apartment, holding the phone, staring at the calendar on my wall where I'd drawn a little star on the 14th. Mom, it's my actual birthday. I know, and I'm so sorry. But you're 30, Claire. You're an adult. Elena is still figuring things out, and she needs us right now. You've always been so independent and strong, I know you'll understand. There it was. The praise that was also a dismissal. I was strong, so I didn't need them. I was independent, so I should be fine on my own. Elena was fragile, so she deserved everything. I said, okay. Thank you, sweetheart. I knew you'd get it. We'll do something really nice next week, I promise. She didn't apologize again. She just started talking about what Elena would need to pack. On the morning of my 30th birthday, I woke up to silence. No texts. No calls. I checked my phone 3 times, thinking maybe I'd missed something. Around 7, I made myself coffee and sat by the window in my apartment, watching the sun come up over the neighborhood. I thought about calling someone, a friend, maybe, or my coworker Katie, who I'd gotten close to over the past year. But I didn't want to seem pathetic. I didn't want to admit out loud that my own parents had forgotten me. Around 9, I decided to drive over to my parents' house. I don't know what I expected. Maybe that they'd be home by then, that they'd have a cake waiting, that my mom would hug me and say she hadn't forgotten after all. I parked in the driveway and walked up to the front door. I still had my key. The house was empty. There was a note on the kitchen counter in my mom's handwriting. Took Elena to airport. Back by noon. Leftovers in fridge. I stood there for a long time, reading that note over and over. There was no mention of me. No happy birthday, Claire. Nothing. I went home. I spent my 30th birthday alone, eating takeout and watching old movies. At around 8 that night, my mom texted, "Home safe." Elena's flight took off on time. She's so excited. Talk soon. No mention of my birthday. Not one word. I didn't respond. The next day, Sunday, my mom called. I almost didn't pick up, but I did. She sounded cheerful. Hi, honey. How was your weekend? I couldn't believe it. Mom, yesterday was my birthday. There was a pause. Then, in a quieter voice, oh my God. Claire. I'm so sorry. With everything going on with Elena, it completely slipped my mind. Slipped her mind. 30 years. The milestone birthday I'd been looking forward to for months. Gone, because my sister needed to go to Paris. It's fine, I said, even though it wasn't. We'll make it up to you, I promise. How about next Saturday? We'll take you somewhere really nice. Sure. But I already knew how it would go. Something would come up. Elena would call with a crisis from Paris. My dad would have a work thing. My mom would be too tired. There would always be a reason, and the reason would always be that I wasn't worth the effort. I spent the next few days in a fog. I went to work, I smiled at my coworkers, I pretended everything was normal. But something had shifted inside me. It wasn't anger, exactly. It was clarity. For the first time in my life, I saw my family for exactly what it was, a system that had decided long ago who mattered and who didn't. And I was the one who didn't. On Wednesday, my Aunt Laura called me. Laura was my mom's older sister, a woman in her early 60s who lived about 2 hours away and who I'd always liked but didn't see often. She was straightforward, practical, and didn't have much patience for nonsense. Claire, I just heard about your birthday. I'm so sorry I missed it. How was the dinner with your folks? I hesitated. I could have lied. I could have said it was fine, that we'd rescheduled, that everything was great. But I was so tired of pretending. There wasn't a dinner, Aunt Laura. They forgot. They were taking Elena to the airport for a trip to Paris. Silence on the other end. Then, they forgot your 30th birthday? Yeah. And they sent Elena to Paris? They paid for the whole thing. She quit her job and needed a reset. Another pause. When Laura spoke again, her voice was tight. I'm coming over this weekend. I want to talk to you in person. You don't have to. I'm coming. She hung up before I could argue. That Saturday, Laura showed up at my apartment in the late morning. She hugged me at the door, and I realized how much I needed that, just someone acknowledging that I existed, that I mattered. We sat in my small living room, and she asked me to tell her everything. Not just about my birthday, but about everything. The pattern. The years of being overlooked. The comparisons. The quiet, constant message that I was supposed to be fine on my own while Elena got all the attention, all the money, all the grace. I told her things I'd never said out loud. I cried, which I hated, but Laura just sat there and listened. When I was done, she looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Claire, I need to tell you something. And I need you to really hear me. I nodded. Your parents have been doing this since you were kids. I've watched it for years, and I've bitten my tongue because I didn't think it was my place. But it's gotten worse. And I think you know that. I do. I helped them refinance the house when Elena dropped out of college. They told me it was for repairs. I found out later it was for her Europe trip. I was furious, but your mom begged me not to say anything. She said Elena was fragile and needed support. I felt my chest tighten. You paid for that? I co-signed the loan. Which means I've been watching them throw money at Elena while you've been completely self-sufficient, and it's made me sick. I should have said something sooner. It's not your fault. Maybe not. But I'm saying something now. She leaned forward. I'm done enabling this. I'm not co-signing anything else. I'm not giving them money. And I think you need to stop letting them treat you like you're an afterthought. I don't know how to do that. You start by telling them the truth. And if they don't listen, you walk away. I looked at her, and I felt something crack open inside me. Permission. That's what she was giving me. Permission to stop pretending this was normal. I want you to come stay with me for a while, Laura said. I have a guest room. You can keep your job, keep your life, but you don't have to be alone in this. And I think you need some space from them. I thought about my parents' house, about the way I always felt small and invisible there. I thought about my apartment, about how I'd spent my 30th birthday alone because no one had thought to check on me. Okay, I said. I'll come. That afternoon, Laura drove me to my parents' house. I didn't tell them we were coming. I just wanted to pick up a few things I'd left there over the years, some books, some photos, my high school yearbooks. I thought we'd be in and out. But when we pulled into the driveway, both my parents' cars were there. Laura looked at me. Do you want me to come in with you? Yeah. Please. We walked in through the front door. My mom was in the kitchen, on the phone. My dad was in the living room, watching a golf tournament. They both looked up when they saw us, and my mom's face brightened. Laura. What a surprise. And Claire, honey, we were just talking about rescheduling your birthday dinner. How's this coming Saturday? I looked at my mom, at her cheerful smile, at the way she was already moving on, already smoothing things over. And I realized I didn't want a rescheduled dinner. I didn't want another promise that would get broken the second Elena called with a problem. I'm not here for dinner plans, Mom. I'm here to get some of my things. Her smile faltered. What do you mean? Laura stepped forward. Marcia, we need to talk. All of us. My dad stood up, frowning. What's going on? I took a breath. You forgot my birthday. My mom's face flushed. Claire, we already apologized for that. We've been under a lot of stress. You sent Elena to Paris, I said, and my voice was steadier than I expected. You spent thousands of dollars on her because she had a bad week at work. And you couldn't even remember that I turned 30. That's not fair, my dad said. Your sister was going through a really hard time. And I wasn't? He blinked. What are you talking about? You're doing great. You have a good job, your own place. Yeah, because I had to. Because you never helped me the way you help her. My mom stepped closer, her voice soft and pleading. Claire, you've always been so independent. We didn't think you needed us the same way. I did need you. I still do. But you never noticed, because you were too busy fixing Elena's life every time she made a bad decision. That's not true, my mom said, but her voice wavered. Laura spoke up, calm and firm. Marcia, it is true. I've watched you do this for years. Claire has been invisible in this family, and you've let it happen because it was easier than holding Elena accountable. My dad's face darkened. Laura, this is our family. You don't get to come in here, Anne. I co-signed your refinance loan, Laura said. I've been paying into Elena's lifestyle for 2 years. So yes, I do get to have an opinion. And my opinion is that you've failed Claire. The room went silent. My mom looked like she'd been slapped. We love both our daughters. Then show it, Laura said. Because right now, all you're showing Claire is that she doesn't matter. I felt tears starting, and I hated it. I didn't want to cry in front of them. I didn't want to give them the satisfaction of seeing how much this hurt. I'm going to stay with Aunt Laura for a while, I said. What? My mom's voice cracked. Claire, you don't need to do that. We can work this out. I don't think we can. Not right now. You're overreacting, my dad said, and I saw a flash of anger in his eyes. We missed one birthday. People make mistakes. It's not one birthday, Dad. It's everything. It's 30 years of being the kid who didn't need anything because Elena needed everything. I'm done. I turned and walked toward the stairs. My mom called after me, but I didn't stop. I went up to my old room. It had been turned into a guest room years ago, but there were still boxes of my things in the closet, and I started pulling out what I wanted. Books. Photo albums. A jewelry box my grandmother had given me. I worked quickly, and Laura helped me carry everything down to her car. When we came back down, my mom was crying. My dad was standing with his arms crossed, his jaw tight. And in the doorway to the kitchen, I saw my sister. Elena had come home early from Paris. She was supposed to be gone another week, but there she was, standing in the kitchen doorway in an oversized sweater, looking annoyed. What's going on? She asked. Your sister is throwing a tantrum, my dad said. I stopped in my tracks. A tantrum? You're mad because we had to reschedule your birthday. That's what this is about, right? I stared at him, and I felt something inside me finally break. Not in a painful way. In a freeing way. No, Dad. This is about the fact that you've never once put me first. Not once. And I'm not going to keep waiting for you to start. Elena rolled her eyes. Oh my God, Claire. You're 30. Grow up. I looked at her, my little sister, who had never had to work for anything, who had never been told no, who had been handed opportunity after opportunity while I scraped by on my own. I did grow up, Elena. That's the problem. You didn't have to. She scoffed. Whatever. I'm going back upstairs. She turned and left, and my parents didn't say a word to stop her. They didn't tell her to stay, to listen, to understand what was happening. They just let her walk away, the same way they always did. I picked up the last box and walked out the front door. Laura followed me. My mom came out onto the porch, calling my name, but I didn't turn around. I got into Laura's car, and we drove away. I didn't look back. For the first few weeks at Laura's house, I felt like I was in shock. I went to work, I came home, I ate dinner with my aunt, and I tried to process what had happened. My mom called me every day for the first week, leaving voicemails that started out apologetic and gradually became frustrated. My dad called twice, both times to tell me I was being unfair and that I needed to think about the family. I didn't call them back. Elena sent me a single text. You're being dramatic. Mom and Dad are a mess because of you. I blocked her number. Laura's house was quiet. She lived in a small town outside the city, in a 3-bedroom ranch with a big backyard and a garden she tended every morning. She didn't push me to talk, but she was always there if I needed her. She made me coffee in the mornings and left little notes on the counter, things like "You're doing great and proud of you." It was such a small thing, but it mattered more than I could say. I started seeing a therapist. Her name was Dr. Stephanie Boyer, and she specialized in family dynamics. In our first session, I told her everything: the birthday, the favoritism, the years of feeling like I didn't matter. She listened without judgment, and then she said something that stayed with me. Claire, you've been trying to earn something that was never yours to earn. Your parents' love and attention should have been given freely. The fact that you had to fight for it means the system was broken, not you. I cried in that session. I cried in a lot of sessions. But slowly, I started to feel lighter. I started to see that the problem wasn't that I was unlovable or not enough. The problem was that my parents had made a choice, over and over, to prioritize one daughter over the other. And that choice was theirs, not mine. By the end of the summer, I'd settled into a routine. I'd gotten a promotion at work. My boss, a woman named Katie, had noticed the extra effort I'd been putting in and pulled me aside to tell me I was doing excellent work. I started going to a yoga class on Wednesday nights. I made friends with Laura's neighbor, a woman in her 30s named Stephanie who worked as a nurse and who invited me over for wine and terrible reality TV. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was living for myself, not for the approval of people who would never give it. If you're still watching, thank you. I know these stories can be heavy, but I think they're important to share. If this resonates with you, please take a moment to like this video and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes knowing we're not alone makes all the difference. And drop a comment below. Have you ever had to choose yourself over family expectations? I want to hear your story. In September, my mom stopped calling. I didn't know if that meant she'd given up or if she was just tired of trying. Either way, the silence was a relief. But in early October, everything shifted again. Laura got a call from my dad. He needed money. The refinance loan they'd taken out, the one Laura had co-signed, was coming due, and they couldn't make the payment. He wanted her to cover it, just this once, just until they got back on their feet. Laura put him on speakerphone so I could hear. "Andrew, I told you I wasn't doing this anymore," she said. "Laura, please. We're family. We're in a tough spot right now." "Why are you in a tough spot?" There was a pause. Then, reluctantly, "Elena's been having some trouble. She's back home, and she's not working right now. We're supporting her while she figures things out." I closed my eyes. Of course. "Andrew, I'm not covering this loan. You took it out to fund Elena's lifestyle, and I'm done enabling that. You're going to have to figure this out on your own. If you don't help us, we could lose the house. Then you need to make some hard choices. Tell Elena to get a job. Stop paying for things she should be paying for herself. Be parents, not enablers." My dad's voice turned cold. "You're punishing us because Claire is mad." "No," Laura said. "I'm holding you accountable because you've spent years making terrible financial decisions and expecting other people to bail you out." "I'm done." She hung up. I looked at her, and she looked at me. "Are you okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. And I meant it. 2 weeks later, my mom showed up at Laura's house unannounced. I was at work, but Laura called me immediately. "Your mom's here. She wants to talk to you. Tell her I'm not ready." I did. "She's insisting." I sighed. "I'll come home early." When I got there, my mom was sitting in Laura's living room, looking smaller than I remembered. Her eyes were red, and her hands were shaking slightly as she held a cup of tea Laura had made for her. I sat down across from her. "What do you want, Mom?" "I want my daughter back." "Which one?" The words came out sharper than I intended, but I didn't take them back. She flinched. "Claire, I know we made mistakes. But we're trying. Your dad and we've been talking, and we realize we haven't been fair to you. Okay. We want to make things right. We want you to come home." "I am home. I mean to the house. To the family." I shook my head. "I can't do that." "Why not?" "Because nothing's changed, Mom. You're here because you need something from me. You need me to forgive you so you can feel better. But you haven't actually done anything different. That's not true. We've been working on things with Elena. We've told her she needs to get a job, that we can't keep supporting her. And has she? My mom looked down. She's looking. Right. Claire, please. We're your family. You're my parents, I said. But family is supposed to show up for each other. And you didn't show up for me. Not when it mattered. She started crying, and part of me wanted to comfort her. That's what I'd always done, made her feel better, smoothed things over, pretended everything was fine. But I didn't move. I'm sorry, she said. I'm so sorry. I know you are. But sorry isn't enough. She left a few minutes later, and I stood at the window, watching her car pull away. Laura came and stood beside me. You okay? She asked. Yeah. I think I am. Over the next few months, my parents made a few more attempts to reach out. My dad sent an email asking if we could meet for coffee. My mom sent a card at Thanksgiving, saying she missed me. Elena sent nothing, which didn't surprise me. I responded politely but distantly. I told them I needed more time. I didn't tell them that the time I needed might be forever. In December, I heard through Laura that my parents were selling the house. The refinance loan had become unmanageable, and they couldn't keep up with the payments. They were downsizing to a small condo, and Elena was moving in with a friend, or, more accurately, a boyfriend who was willing to support her while she pursued her passions. I didn't feel satisfaction hearing this. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt sad. Sad that it had come to this. Sad that they'd made choices that hurt all of us. Sad that Elena would probably never learn to stand on her own. But I also felt free. By the time winter turned to spring, I'd started to build a life I was proud of. I'd been promoted again at work. I'd started dating someone, a man named Jimmy I'd met through Stephanie, who was kind and steady and who didn't make me feel like I had to earn his attention. I'd signed a lease on a small house just a few streets away from Laura, a place with a garden and big windows and room for all the things I loved. I celebrated my 31st birthday in May, surrounded by people who loved me. Laura made a cake. Katie came over with wine. Stephanie brought flowers. Jimmy made dinner. We sat on my back porch as the sun set, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time, peace. No one forgot. No one canceled. No one made me feel like I was asking for too much just by existing. That night, as I was cleaning up, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my mom. Happy birthday, Claire. I hope you're well. I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed back, thank you. I didn't say anything else. I didn't need to. Looking back now, I don't regret leaving. I don't regret setting boundaries or choosing myself or walking away from a family that couldn't see my worth. It hurt, God, it hurt, but it also saved me. I learned that you can't make people love you the way you need to be loved. You can't force them to see you, to value you, to prioritize you. All you can do is decide what you're willing to accept and what you're not. And I wasn't willing to accept being invisible anymore. My parents and I have a surface-level relationship now. We exchange texts on holidays. We're polite. But we're not close, and I don't think we ever will be. Elena and I don't speak at all. I've heard she's still struggling, still bouncing from one thing to another, still expecting someone else to fix her problems. I hope she finds her way eventually. But it's not my job to save her. It never was. I think about that morning on my 30th birthday sometimes, the empty house, the note on the counter, the realization that I'd been waiting my whole life for people who were never going to show up. And I'm grateful for it now, in a strange way. Because it was the push I needed to finally let go. If you're reading this and you've ever felt like the forgotten child, the one who's expected to understand while everyone else gets grace, I want you to know, you're not asking for too much. You're not being dramatic. You deserve to be seen, to be celebrated, to be loved without conditions. And if the people who are supposed to love you can't do that, it's okay to walk away. So here's my question for you. If you knew that waiting for someone to change would cost you years of your life, would you still wait? Or would you choose yourself? I chose myself. And I've never looked back. Before you go, if this story moved you or made you think differently about family dynamics and boundaries, please subscribe to this channel. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a story. And most importantly, leave a comment below. Tell me, have you ever had to set boundaries with family? What happened? Your story matters, and this community is here to support you. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, choosing yourself isn't selfish. It's survival.